Refinery just some weeks ago. And if we are going to look at that, I think we've had a paper showcase that, and that takes us to
the Vanguard.
The Vanguard
is
yes.
reporting similar situation.
Yes, it talks about why government can't stop Lagos Abuja cartel. Pandev, Niger Delta leaders, activists challenge President Tinubu to summon political will to stop it. That has to do with crude oil theft. So let's talk about crude oil theft. This has been an issue. In fact, we've been having successes where some cartels have been destroyed, some illegal refineries destroyed, and some oil materials confiscated. But we keep having that. The Dangote Refinery, which is supposed to be like the savior, some weeks ago we had a fire incident which possibly will stall some progress in oil production. What do you have to say concerning that?
We are in a dilemma. Nigeria economy is at the brink of collapsing. I had in several fora, in several occasions, presented papers to the effect that until you dismantled the cabal, the cartel that are playing oil politics that have held this country spellbound from 1999 till date, you will make no progress. You will not see any refinery functioning in Nigeria. In most of my instances, I have even called for the sacking of the GMD, Melekere, and I have given instances why he should be sacked. If you are a minister if you are the GMD of NNPC, a GMD of NNPC, whose major duty is to refine petroleum products, and you've not been able to refine a liter for close to 4 years, you don't have any business being there. If you are hired by an establishment to produce an item, and in 4 years you are able to produce one single item, then you don't have the capacity to be so allowed to remain. Now you could see what is happening to Dangote Refinery. Dangote Refinery is one of the things that has opened our eyes to the cartel that have actually held this country spellbound. The president came on board 2023 when the NLC and us protested that the fuel subsidy shouldn't have been removed. He promised us that by December 2023 that the Port Refinery will function. We are in July. Not even a single liter has been refined. What is happening there? Who is responsible? Who is answering questions? But what we do is to export our crude, the raw material that we have, to elsewhere, refine it there, and buy it and bring it back. Then you now use the foreign exchange rate to tell you that market prices, market forces determine what is being sold. That is why we are having these issues we are having. Until we are able to get it right, like the Pandev chiefs are saying that you need to, muster the political will. Truth be told, the president needs the political will to be able to unbundle and remove those people who are becoming stumbling blocks to his government. Honestly speaking, the refineries are just lying fallow, and we are spending billions of dollars in thorough maintenance. Nothing is happening. Here you have a refinery that has come on board. The federal government has a share in it, and yet we've not been able to refine because of the hurdles they are facing in getting crude. And this crude are exploited from Nigerian soil. What are we then saying? Something is wrong. That is why the Pandev and people like us are advocating that the president should take charge and ensure that those who are, frustrating the economy, because oil is our mainstay. Nigeria is operating a petrodollar economy centered around crude oil. And once this crude oil is not giving us what we need, we have a lot of suffering all over the land. Today there is hunger everywhere caused by the fuel subsidy removal. And so we need the president to take charge and direct that the refineries that are not functioning should start functioning. Let's begin to produce. If you produce crude in Nigeria, if you refine your crude oil here to get petrol, kerosene, diesel, and the rest, you will see that the cost of buying for the pump price will reduce.
But Otwikong, still talking about this issue, it takes me to the issue of crude oil theft, as reported by one of the papers. Do you think we're doing enough? Because almost every time we hear that persons who are either bunkering or stealing oil from the country, they're paraded, their vessels destroyed. Is that enough?
Portfolio. There is a cartel that need to be, unbundled. You recall, I think 2 or 3 years ago, the Nigerian Navy came up that they have been able to seize, a ship that came from elsewhere to come and, steal our crude oil and take them away. And before you say Jack Robinson, that ship was set ablaze. Any ship coming into this country must have a manifest. You will know where it's coming from, who are in the crew, and where it's going to. So have you been able to arrest or use the manifest or be able to track where it's coming from and where it's going to? It's not possible that you can just have ships coming into the country and, steal our crude oil and go back like that. Where you have the Marine Police, you have the Navy, you have the Air Force, you have the relevant security agencies. That is why at the point the government had to now, relinquish the crude oil thief, fight against the crude oil thief to private security, where you now have the like of a Tom Polo, beginning to see how to battle with it. But how will you surrender the sovereignty of the security agencies to the hand of a private person to be able to handle? So the government needs the relevant security agencies to do what they ought to do. Where the buck still ends on the table of Mr. President, he needs to be able to do what is needed to be done. If there is need to have a task force, you should have it. If there is need to engage the stakeholders, you should engage them. Because there is no crude oil theft without collaborative effort of those at the top.
Okay.
So done.
Well, still on The Guardian, there's a part here from the Vice President says Shettima urges swift to non-oil sector to unlock potential. And we're talking oil, but here we're also looking at a shift to non-oil sector. Let's look at other economies, the top 10 economies. We look at issues of technology, we look at issues of agriculture, we look at issues of knowledge economy as well. But in Nigeria, we've been so focused on the oil. Now the Vice President says there should be a shift to non-oil sector to unlock potential. What other potential do we have? We keep talking of agriculture, but then we have hunger issues. We barely would have. Let's look at tomato recently. Now we can barely afford tomato. So what potential are we talking about?
You see, our constitution has become another impediment that we have in having a successful economy. I have said over time that we are operating a very faulty constitution in the sense that it domiciles over 63 items in the exclusive list of the federal government. So every state government will look up to the federal government for federal allocation. That's the truth. So no state government is actually doing anything. When we get to a proper true federalism, when states will be able to produce, pay tax to the center, you will see that state government wake up to the reality. Every state has its own natural resource, apart from the crude oil. Yes, you mentioned agro-industry. Yes, we have it. But beyond that, every state has its own natural resource. But because everybody is just being kind of lazy, waiting at the end of the month, you go to Abuja, the FAC will just share billions and give to you. You go home, you use it wisely or unwisely. So that is the truth about it. We need to, I aligned my thought with that of the Vice President. We need to begin to do a paradigm shift from the petrodollar economy, that is to say from crude oil, to other resources that we have. We have the mining, we have the cocoa, we have the groundnut, we have other resources. Where are they? Right now, everybody is focusing on crude oil. because that is what gives us the quick money.
All right, let's look at some other papers. What these other papers that we have this Saturday are reporting. It takes us to the Saturday Telegraph, which is reporting another very important issue that has stirred up controversy. The Telegraph reports GMOs, laboratory creation, stirs concern, controversy, as the writer captures the statements. They carry health risk, could lead to mutilation of organisms that can breed pandemics. That statement is accredited to Professor Eze Diebe. And it's something to be encouraged in Nigeria, says Professor Agbola. And of course, biotechnology can enable Nigeria overcome food security challenge. That is on one hand. I'll just quickly take you to another newspaper that captures the same concern, which is the Saturday Independent. From the Saturday Independent, the same matter is reported, as it says how Tinubu approved adoption of GMO seeds despite opposition. With the writer, we don't need GMOs to feed Nigerians, farmers insist. Crop yields, food security, pest and insect resistance, a statement which is credited to Dr. Guidado. Otrekong, let's talk about GMO, which is genetically modified organisms, and how the conversation has been very recurrent lately with some videos. I don't know if you saw that video of a species of chickens in the UK with an experiment of this GMO as well as some crops. Do you think the GMO conversation, which people are, talking about with some for and against, is something we should look at, considering the peculiarity of our topography here?
I think we should be more careful with such an issue. I don't want to say that it presents danger because I have not gotten the statistics. I've not also gotten the full detail of what it entails. But my take will just simply be our forefathers, did not, go into GMOs to grow our agro sector. And so we should not go into something that we cannot be able to withstand. Our system, our body organisms are built in such a way that it will conform with natural items. If you begin to prop up crops and begin to use chemicals and use scientific method to grow crops and other things, definitely you will have challenge in future. It might not be immediate. Most of the things that we are importing, most of the foreign food that we are importing that has preservatives, is part of it is why we are having kidney failures, liver issues, and the rest. And so this particular matter should be treated carefully. The president should not be in a haste because we are in scarcity of food to rush into it. Let the relevant agencies like the NAFDAC and the rest begin to go into work. Let our researchers, those in the institutions, come out with well-documented research backing up that this particular experiment will be okay for us. Otherwise, for me, is a no.
Well, still on the Jennifer, I beg your pardon. Quickly, still on the Telegraph, another concern is also captured there. As it says, reps probe 1.5 billion allegedly diverted by Women Affairs Ministry. Also another headline of note, police killed 9 attempted to abduct wealthy individuals in Nigeria. This issue of women affairs, I'd like for you to speak briefly to it. We saw the corruption issue, money problems with the humanitarian ministry. Now the reps, they will be looking at the issue of 1.5 billion, which has been allegedly diverted by the Women Affairs Ministry officials, and they will be summoning the minister to appear on Tuesday. I'd like for you to speak to that issue.
I think the House of Reps is just doing its oversight function, which is allowed and which is constitutional. But beyond the publications we've seen, how many of the probe that has been done has actually been carried out to the letter? We've had that of the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, we've had that of the Nigeria Data Ministry, and the rest. At the end of the day, most of these probe are just for the media are just media trials. At the end of the day, it doesn't go anywhere. So I would, while applauding the House of Reps for doing their job, my take will be that it's not just to do the media hyping, but to follow into the letter. That's the point. So it is good to probe, but after the probe, what next? It's not that you use that proof to witch hunt, or maybe someone is asking for a favor from the minister, or is not given, and then you now raise up a petition and call for a proof, and before you know it, they've done a press release, a media attack, and after the whole proof, nothing is out of it. Let the House of Reps carry out their function, which is to oversight the Ministry of Women Affairs, after which we want to see those who are culpable being arraigned and prosecuted according to in line with the law of the land.
Before we go to the international scene, it's also important for us to mention, as captured by the Leadership Weekend, which is also another important matter, talking about health, the cholera situation, as we've seen several reports with data and the number of persons. I'd like for you to quickly speak to this issue as captured by the Leadership Weekend, as it talks about the NCDC, that's the National Center for Disease Control, talking about data, states presenting conflicting data. There's a rider there at the Leadership Weekend saying 2,102 cases, 63 deaths recorded in 33 states. Now, this statement is accredited to the federal government, but it's conflicting on the other hand, as 14 state health commissioners are saying they have witnessed 0 cases. This cholera situation, data is a problem in this country, and that's why it's taken center stage here, the front page of the Leadership Weekend. Do we have accurate data capturing, and do we manage data?
I don't know. By now, Nigeria would have been amongst the states or the country that that would do more with data. We still have the issue of data. When you recall, when Mr. President came up with palliative to dole out monies to the poorest of the poor, the state governors came out to fault the list, asking that the data was faulty. And even at the state level, you don't have data. So I think we have the issue of getting proper data. We say Nigerians are over 200 millions of Nigerians. How do you have it? Over how many figure? Let's be able to match a complete figure. Nigerians are either 300 million Nigerians. Fine, we are 300 million, and then you can now say we have the poorest of the poor. This is the figure. Those who are disabled, these are the figure, and then those who are diseased are the figures. You have data matching this, it will be able to help. Then the issue of the cholera is a very sad one. I've seen pictures in some states where children have been affected.
Perhaps we may have to interrupt you. Maybe on the day to come we'll bring an expert to talk about. But let's travel to the international scene, where Jennifer will be telling us, especially what's been happening with the UK elections.
Well, let's begin from papers, and from the international scene we have the Times. The Times, with the first thing which is very prominent there is the statement from the new Prime Minister, which says the work of change begins. And that takes us to the election, the UK election, which just took place yesterday.